this video, I'm going to share the one thing that helped me regain my life after years of struggling with disordered anxiety. This is not a coping mechanism. We're not going to do box breathing, and I promise you I won't string you along only to try to sell you something at the end of this video. This is truly something that helped me go from practically homebound to living a normal life again. The reason I'm sharing this today is because if you're like me and have spent the majority of your life asking why you're anxious or whether you'll ever be able to do the things that you dream about, then I hope this might help you as it did me. If you've experienced high levels of anxiety or panic attacks, then you know that you wouldn't wish this on anyone. If you're anything like me, you'll know what anxiety does, how it keeps us small, how it holds our dreams hostage, and how it makes life seem like it's being witnessed from behind a window as you watch the world move forward while it holds you prisoner behind the glass. Who am I? And why should you even listen to me? Well, I'm someone who has lived with the pit in my stomach, the nausea, the background feeling that something's about to go very wrong for as long as I can remember. I'm someone who would get triggered by uncertainty, by noise, someone who for years admired people who can go with the flow and who would get dysregulated if plans I had been mentally preparing myself for days would suddenly change. I could write a book of all the practices and therapies I've done: hypnosis, exposure therapy, direct neurofeedback, group therapy, EFT, strict diets, talk therapy, you name it, I've done it. I would start out hopeful, I'd see progress for a while, and then I'd relapse back into dysregulation and fear. When I hit a wall in 2023 with my mental health, I stumbled upon something that changed everything. For reasons unknown, I started to experience high levels of anxiety that would start the minute I woke up and lasted until I fell asleep at night again. I was afraid all the time, and I started to believe that I had really lost it this time. I had reached a point of no return. That's when I found a book that changed it all. The book was called No Bad Parts by Dick Schwartz. Dick Schwartz is a psychologist who, while working back in the 80s with patients who included inmates and people struggling with eating disorders, found that all of them expressed having a part of them that did these behaviors. This is when he realized that we, or at least our minds, are not just one, but a system made up of parts like a family, all being observed by the self. And the self is our core, our true being. It's that part of us that tells us it's going to be okay, or you can do this. The easiest way to know if you're in your self energy is to notice if you're feeling calm, curious, compassionate, creative. If you've ever said there's a part of me that, fill in the blanks, then IFS or internal family systems might be the tool you've been needing. For so long, I couldn't quite understand why in certain situations or around certain people I felt quote unquote normal, calm, at ease, and then suddenly, many times even in the same day, I'd become nervous, I was jittery, and suddenly I didn't feel safe anymore. Once I understood internal family systems, I understood where that part of me that is afraid or anxious was coming from and who she was. For me, she was 12-year-old Jen, pushed into a new world when I moved to another country and found myself being bullied in school by students and teachers alike. In many instances, this anxious part that you're carrying derives from trauma. But the positive thing about IFS is that you don't have to go into that trauma to heal. And unlike talk therapy that makes you relive and rehash past pain, IFS teaches you to acknowledge that scared part and to love it and to take it by the hand and to listen to it. Because that's what most of anxiety is. It's just a younger version of you desperate for attention. As soon as you learn to acknowledge anxiety as just a part of you, it immediately stops being who you are and you can lighten your grip. Anxiety is just afraid because at some point in our lives, things happened and we created this part to protect us. That scared part that at times I'd felt angry at or that I'd push away was only ever doing its best so that whatever happened in the past would never happen again. And it does this by making us feel afraid so that we don't do anything to get ourselves in that situation again. Sadly though, as we go through life not realizing that it's just a part of us, we begin to believe that we are just anxious. It's who we are, that we're wired this way, but it's not true. You probably know, like I did, that there are places and times when you're at peace. You know that you have a sense of humor, or you feel compassion towards others. That energy of calm is actually you, and that you energy is who we want to be in as much as possible. When the anxious part starts to get loud, we always have access to that part, to the self. A simple practice you can do today is to notice where in your body you feel the anxiety. Is it in your throat, around your heart, perhaps around the belly? Put your hand over it, close your eyes and say, I hear you and I'm here for you now. There's a saying that goes, what you resist persists. And I realize now that I had been resisting my anxiety for years. When I was young, I'd just ignore it. I'd push through as hard as I could. Later on, I took medication to numb it. I drank alcohol to make sure it stayed quiet in social situations that I was uncomfortable with. But these days, I don't do any of that anymore, because I realized what I was doing was resisting that part. I was pushing her away, and for some time it worked. Sometimes she would go away for long periods of time, but she would sit in the background of my mind just enough to make me feel uneasy, and then she'd rage and I'd have a panic attack. This is a simple practice, but a huge one. No therapy, no amount of yoga worked as well as IFS did. And I encourage you to read No Bad Parts or to research internal family systems. I encourage you most to check in with yourself daily. Even on good days, take a few minutes as soon as you wake up or anytime throughout your day, and place your hand over that tightness and speak to it with compassion. Let it know that you are here now, that it can relax, that you will take care of things, and most importantly, that that part of you is loved by you. A thing I noticed at the beginning of this practice for me was that my anxious part didn't quite trust me. So I started by apologizing to her and letting her know that I was going to do what I could to regain that broken trust that I had created from years of ignoring her, dousing her with distractions, making myself small for people who didn't even have my best interest at heart, and for feeling ashamed and angry at her because she just wouldn't change or heal. I began to envision that part as a younger version of myself, and I would take her with me to do things that she might be uncomfortable with. And I showed her that I was not going to break our trust. This might mean that when we went somewhere, we would only go for a certain amount of time, and I would honor that and leave exactly at the time I promised that we would. I really honored that part, and I told her she was safe every day with me. And with time, I noticed that that part felt less separate from me, and it started to feel safe enough to let me take charge of our life. These days, she's still there, but just not way off on her own, trying to get my attention by panicking. These days, she might show up as a jolt in my nervous system when something challenging comes up. But I now know that what we resist persists, so I'll immediately acknowledge her by saying, I see that you're feeling nervous, and I'll relax my body completely to show her that there's nothing to be tense about. I tell her that I love her, and let me show her that we're okay. I hope what I'm saying resonates with you so that you can start to see your anxiety as a part of you that you can speak with, that you can take care of, and not the entirety of who you are. So every day, friends, even if you're in panic, relax your body and see this part experiencing its feelings. Acknowledge its feelings with love and compassion, and then keep moving forward to show it that you can still live your life even while feeling uncomfortable. It will slowly but surely begin to understand that it doesn't need to be so rigid or so afraid. You've got this, and I'm here for you if you need support.